In an unprecedented and perhaps a shocking move for some, 7 opposition parties led by the Congress has moved a notice for impeachment of the Chief Justice of India, Dipak Misra. And this notice has been moved to Vice President Venkaiah Naidu. The notice that mentions 5 grounds for misbehaviour accuses the Chief Justice of India of misusing his position in sending sensitive matters to particular benches. While the opposition may not have the numbers, the move certainly signals that all is not well with the Indian judicial system. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley, meanwhile, has earlier today hit out at the opposition for the move to seek the Chief Justice's removal. Jaitley says the power of impeachment is being used by the opposition to take revenge over lawyer case. But what does this really mean, and what are the fault lines it really exposes both in our polity and in our judicial system? I've got Hitesh Jain, spokesperson of the BJP, Aman Pawar, spokesperson of the Congress, and none other than Soli Sorabji, former Attorney General of India and a legal luminary whose voice I really count. Thank you very much, each one of you, for being with us. And I think it's only fair that I start with Mr. Sorabji. And, sir, I have to ask you, is the impeachment move, is the impeachment notice being used as a political tool here?
Well, what are the grounds for impeachment? The grounds which are given, to my mind, don't constitute misbehavior. You impeach a Chief Justice on the ground of proved misbehavior. Now, misbehavior doesn't mean that the order is passed which some members of the political party don't like. Orders are passed which they feel are not correct. There must be, it's a serious thing to remove a Chief Justice by impeachment. So it must be misbehavior in the discharge of his functions as a Chief Justice. And I don't think that is here at all made out. I'm afraid this is really a move to browbeat the judges, to tell them, well, if you don't pass orders to our liking, you would have to face impeachment proceedings. That's the feeling I get, and that is what I find very distressing. That in our country, an institution like the judiciary should be browbeaten in this fashion.
Okay, I think you're raising a very valid point that this is a distressing moment as far as our polity and judiciary is concerned. But before I go any further, I must ask the Congress representative here. The Finance Minister Arun Jaitley just sometime back wrote his blog, and he says that this is the revenge petition after what he calls the Congress party's false propaganda got exposed in the justice lawyer case. I'm curious to know, is it a revenge petition?
I would like to remind the Finance Minister that last year when the judgment was passed by the Supreme Court in the NJAC case, the judicial appointment case, the same Bharatiya Janata Party called that judgment as the tyranny of the unelected, referring to the judiciary. And now let me tell you today that the impeachment motion that has been moved by the Congress party along with other opposition parties is the last resort that was available to us. And the fact that everything is not right in the judiciary was well echoed by the 4 senior most judges of the Supreme Court earlier this year in the month of January, when they did a press conference. And we can imagine, that the 4 senior most judges of the Supreme Court coming down to the public forum before the media and expressing themselves that the way the functioning in the highest court of the country is going on is probably not right. And that the public perception of the judiciary, and which is actually also a fact, is that the judges need to have the highest standards of integrity, and if they are to be presumed to have the highest standards of integrity, then they are also to be judged on the same platform. So this is not something which is coming to us as a very pleasant move, but we did not have any other option. This is the only constitutional mechanism which has been provided to us. So while there have been issues that have been raised by senior most judges, the fact remains that in the case of Prasad Educational Trust, where the Chief Justice himself assigned the case to him, where he became a judge in his own cause, things like these, they are matter of grave importance and need to be looked into. And this is a constitutional mechanism that we actually had to resort to.
The question that one needs to ask is this the only resort that was left for you? And I'll ask that in just a bit. But let me get in Hitesh Jain here, and it's a pleasure to be chatting with three lawyers. God save me over the next 30 minutes. But Hitesh Jain, you know, the point that Mr. Pawar made here, and he says that the same finance minister, okay, Hitesh Jain doesn't seem to be ready right now, and we'll go across to him in just a bit. But Soli Sorabji, the point that the Congress makes is, and I want to really ask this question, is the Congress party responsible for moving this impeachment motion, or did it actually really begin with the 4 sitting judges of the Supreme Court raising a stink and exposing the fault lines that exist within the Indian judiciary? Does it all really date back to the 4 sitting judges who raised very grave issues?
No, the grievance of those judges, right or wrong, was that the Chief Justice was not allotting cases to senior judges, but allotting cases to judges of his preference. Now, assuming that it to be so, that's not judicial misbehavior which warrants impeachment. I mean, impeachment is a drastic remedy. It's to be resorted to in very extreme cases. Proved misbehavior, that's the expression used in the Constitution. Now, if the Chief Justice allots cases to junior judges and not to senior judges, even if that is so, that's not correct, but that's not judicial misbehavior warranting impeachment. That's the point.
Okay. Before I get Hitesh Jain on the phone line, I think there's an issue there. I must ask the Congress party, and you know, a lot has been written, a lot has been said. I want to put the record straight. Yes, there are 64 sitting MPs in the Rajya Sabha who've signed this petition. There were 6 or 7 who retired after signing this petition. But the reality is that apparently your former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh has decided to stay out of this. Doesn't that come as an embarrassment? What happened to this whole united front?
See, we deliberately had chosen to keep Dr. Manmohan Singh out of this petition because we didn't want it to make it in a political slugfest in terms of the Prime Minister, former Prime Minister participating it. This is a matter of issues. We have raised certain issues. There are 5 charges that have been moved in the impeachment motion. One of the very grave charges is that whether a case in which there were certain innuendos and references of the Chief Justice himself maybe having some kind of concern, was that case to be decided by the Chief Justice himself. And this happened after the second senior most judge in the Supreme Court had assigned the case to a different bench, and then the case was taken away from that bench and then assigned to the Chief Justice himself. And in that particular case, there was an ongoing CBI inquiry. So all these things have to be looked into through a proper inquiry procedure which the Constitution of India provides under Article 124. My point is that when this is a methodology, when there is a provision like this which has been provided in under the Constitution, and the charges that have been moved in the motion have been echoed at different forums by the judges themselves, then today, while we are discussing this particular motion, I don't see why the Bharatiya Janata Party, which itself, you know, when a judgment came against them, they called the judiciary as the tyranny of the unelected, and today they are going all over Gaga about the fact that why have we moved this motion? So these are double standards. I want to ask this to the Bharatiya Janata Party, that the Prime Minister in every given platform, he talks about transparency. So isn't this another juncture where transparency should transparency should be invoked and a thorough inquiry be conducted to find out? We are not saying that.
Fair point. Mr. Pawar, just hold your thoughts there, and I will go across to Hitesh Jain, who's connected with us on the phone line. And Hitesh, I have to ask you, the Finance Minister has very categorically said that institutional disruptors are trying to intimidate the judiciary that is listening and hearing very high-profile, sensitive matters in the courts. Now, that's a very, very serious allegation to make. But the contrarian view to that is that should voices of dissent, should voices of disruption, should voices that don't agree with status quo or with the present judiciary be muzzled because they are going to risk disruption?
We are reaching one of the most dangerous moments in the institution of judiciary, and also insofar as all the 3 arms are concerned. here it is not a question of, we are not discussing about normal transparency or some situation that has occurred in the Supreme Court which requires an attention. Look at the facts of the case. They first they threatened when the matter was being heard that we are likely to bring an impeachment motion. Suddenly those talks went into a thin air and the Congress party said, oh, we never wanted to bring the impeachment motion. Now, after the judgment has come, you are trying to bring this impeachment motion. What does this show? It clearly shows a politics of vengeance. It shows that for a political reason, you want to browbeat the judiciary, that if you do not toe our line, then you are going to face the impeachment motion. Also, I want to understand, ultimately what you are doing. You know, on the facts of the case, that you need a 2/3 of majority to really muster the motion. So
that's a question, Hitesh.
So, Supriya, so intention is not to impeach. Intention is to browbeat, intimidate, and threaten a person that you dare pass an order against our peaceful thinking. We are going to bring the order. We are going to bring the motion of.
You know, Hitesh, there are two questions. No, 1 second. Hitesh, just hold your thoughts there. You're joining in late and those questions have been asked. But I will ask you this question, Hitesh, because that's a valid point you've raised. Numbers are not there. Why are you bringing up this whole procedure? I will ask that to the Congress party. But I also have to ask you one more question, Hitesh. Today you are saying this is political opportunism and this is a political stunt. What happened to the whole remark of tyranny of unelected when the NJAC order came? The finance minister went to town, opposing that order. He went to public debates against judges on this. What happened to that then? Wasn't that political stunt also? Then you should respect the judiciary for what they are doing. Why did you call that tyranny of unelected and this institutional disruption? That's double speak.
Good question. It is not a double speak for the simple reason I will tell you. What did we do? Although we criticized the judgment or we stated our view, but we did not bring the motion of impeachment against those judges who passed the order against us. We did not bring the ordinance. We did not go again to re-legislate. You go back to the back in the day of 70s and 80s when the Supreme Court was passing the order against the then Congress government. The Congress was bringing the constitutional amendment to nullify the effect of the judgment. We have not done anything of that sort. Neither we use the language of any impeachment. You have to understand, as far as the impeachment is concerned, it is not something like a child's play, like they bring the no confidence motion in the parliament for the political reason. Impeachment of motion, as far as impeachment of motion for a judge is concerned, is a serious aspect. You cannot bring on a frivolous ground. There has to be reason. What is the reason over here? Merely because you do not agree with the verdict, except that, is there any other ground? I mean, there has to be some credible ground when you are bringing about a motion for impeachment of the judge. And if that is the case, why did they wait for the judgment to be pronounced yesterday? They could have been well within their right when the press conference took place. That could have been a trigger ground for them. Okay, there are some judges who have taken the press conference. So you wait for 6 months. You just throw the hanging sword, and when the judgment is against you, you disagree.
Hitesh, I can't let you... Hitesh, 1 second. You can't carry on with this argument because I know for a fact that this signing had started when the parliament was in session. Before this had started, a very quick word. I'll go across to Soli Sorabji and come back to you, Mr. Pawar. Just give me a second. And Soli Sorabji, I want to ask you this question. Is it very convenient for the political class on both ends to politicize the judiciary? Today, it's the Congress's turn to decide to impeach a sitting judge. Yesterday, it was the BJP that was calling it the tyranny of the unelected.
That only emphasizes that we should keep politics out of it. That's the main thing. If you let politicians jump in the fray, then I think it's bad for the judiciary and bad for the independence of judiciary and bad for Indian democracy. So keep it out. The whole question is, suppose a judge passes incorrect orders or erroneous orders. Is that judicial misbehavior? I mean, judge cannot pass all the time orders which are correct according to some. But suppose according to some these orders are incorrect. So what? It's judicial misbehavior. The words are very important. Judicial misbehavior, not judicial error. Now, as far as that is concerned, political parties will try to utilize the situation to the liking, to the advantage in one case or the other. But we, the legal fraternity, we should be very careful to see that these impeachment motions are not resorted to in order to browbeat the judges. Of course, if judges have strength and stamina and a good spine, they won't be browbeaten, but this is a bad tendency and we should really try and put an end to it.
Okay, let me go across to the Congress party, and I think that's a very valid question that Hitesh Jain has raised there. On what grounds are you really moving this impeachment motion? There are two grounds that are required. One is proven misconduct, and the other, of course, is incompetence. You do not have proven misconduct. What you essentially have is perception. I'm not denying in your perception, you perceive the judge to perhaps not be doing the right thing. You're perhaps going by what the four other judges have said. But where is proven misconduct amidst this? On legal grounds, on what grounds are you asking for impeachment?
First of all, we need to understand what is this impeachment process like. The process itself starts with an initiation of inquiry. When we are moving the motion, it has to be followed by an inquiry that what we are alleging in the motion, whether that stands corrected or not. Now today our charge is that there is a case. There is a case in which a particular person could be an accused. There is a case in which there is a CBI inquiry going on. Can that person himself decide that case? What could be a bigger misconduct than that? So therefore I disagree with Mr. Sorabji and with the BJP spokesperson that when a judge sits to decide his own case, what could be a bigger proven misconduct than that? And that needs to come out in an inquiry. For that, the Parliament, the Constitution has provided this procedure. That procedure needs to be followed, and it will come across in that inquiry whether there was a misconduct or not. Why are we shying away from an inquiry? We are not saying that he's corrupt. We are not saying that he has done some misconduct on the face of it. We are saying that there are these facts in the public domain and they need to be inquired into. Why is the BJP shying away from getting this inquiry done? I mean, we have just moved the motion today. It is for the Vice President to accept the motion or reject it. If he accepts, then there is going to be an inquiry. Once the inquiry report is there, the inquiry report will be placed before the Parliament, and then the legislators will take a call whether the impeachment has to go further or not on the basis of the report.
Okay, get your thoughts there, because I want to also ask you this very valid question. You don't have the numbers. Why move an impeachment motion? Yes, but I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you, Aman Pawar, in just a bit. But I want to go to Hitesh Jain on this very bit. Why is the BJP, why are the Treasury benches, shying away from an inquiry?
We are not shying away from the inquiry. We want to protect the independence of the judiciary. We are talking about protecting the democracy. We are looking at protecting this thing. Congress party may play its politics, because if that was the ground, nothing prevented them to bring the motion 6 months before. The timing is clearly suspected. This is clearly a political motivated. This is a frivolous ground. Even the ground which they are stating will not stand the scrutiny or will not come within the definition of judicial misbehavior, which Mr. Suli Sarabji was also speaking. So, I mean, merely for the sake of raising, tomorrow I can put any sort of allegation, but there has to be some basis or substantial. The whole idea of demanding an inquiry is putting the judiciary under the pressure that, listen, we are going to get you inquired, we are going to get investigated. But my first point is, unless prima facie there is some material, there cannot be inquiry on the basis of frivolous allegation and on the basis of vague, unsubstantiated allegation. And I am not saying this. Even their own former law minister Salman Khurshid said that on the basis of frivolous allegation, their whole party is under the divided house.
Prasad Education Trust is a perfect example of that.
He has even refused to sign the. So first, I mean, their own house is a divided house.
Okay. Don't give that political spin. No, don't let the. 1 second, Hitesh, I agree with what you were saying. Door can be made to question. I agree with most of what you said. Don't give the spin doctor theory to why Manmohan Singh is not charged, because the Congress party has clarified he was the former prime minister, he was not included. So let's give the devil where it's due. But I agree with most parts you've made. Don't give the spin theory. I'm not going to buy it. But Aman Pawar, I have a very valid question to ask you. This impeachment motion, and for the benefit of our viewers, let me explain. Impeachment means that the president will remove the judge, and that happens only after majority of both houses of parliament have pass the impeachment motion, and no less than 2/3 of the majority of the members present and voting vote in this favor. You don't have the numbers. Why are you going ahead with it?
Supriya, that is my entire case, that when I have to move an impeachment motion, I require signatures of only 50 member of parliaments. Now I have got signatures of 64 MPs, and today, if this motion converts into an inquiry, then it will be before all the legislators, irrespective of from which party they are, whether they are from the Congress or the BJP. What if a misconduct is found? If the misconduct is found in the inquiry, can the BJP legislators refuse from voting in favor of the motion? So my point is that this particular motion is only for the purpose of an inquiry. They should have an inquiry, and once the report of the inquiry is in the public domain, then we will see who votes in favor of the inquiry and who does not.
I mean, let's be realistic here. The BJP started with the 282. I think they're down to a 273, if I'm not wrong, in the Lok Sabha. Do you believe in a lower house where they have that brute majority, they will really let something like this pass through?
The question is on the larger thing, that is about transparency. If there is some kind of a misconduct which is proven in the inquiry report, then it is not about...
Let me just come in. I'll tell you why I'm asking you that question. Aman Pawar, I'll tell you why I'm asking the Congress party this question, because the finance minister has very categorically said that there are institutional disruptors. I'm quoting him, these are not my words, that institutional disruptors are trying to intimidate judges listening to sensitive matters. This may end up nowhere, but the attempt is that, and which is why I'm asking you for an answer.
Finance minister and the BJP are in a habit of making such statements. They have made such statements against the media also. And today, when we are, as a part of the democracy, playing an important role of a pillar, just like the media does, as opposition, when we are raising an important issue, they have a habit of snubbing the media when the media raises such important issues. So I can't really help them with the habit that they have got. But when we are raising an important issue as a fourth pillar of the democracy, third pillar of the democracy as the opposition, then I don't think that just for the sake of niceties and just for the sake of not raising these issues, we should blind ourselves towards very important allegations that are there in the motion that has been made against the Chief Justice.
Okay. I want to go back to Soli Sorabji, but before I go to him, I will go across to Hitesh Jain. And Hitesh, when you had not joined in and we were trying to get in touch with you on this faulty phone line, what we had asked Soli Sorabji was that this isn't really the Congress party that has come out with this. This rot is being exposed by 4 senior sitting judges of the Supreme Court who came out in public. And perhaps it is, the entire issue got triggered with them coming out. Are you going to deny that there is rot within the judiciary that needs to be addressed? Because it's a self-admission being made by 4 senior judges of the Supreme Court.
Well, I do not think that is necessarily the case, because the 4 senior judges also, except making some vague references, they did not put any specific allegation or they placed any facts before that. I mean, the press conference was as vague as it was, and with all due respect to those 4 senior judges, they have, as a lawyer, I have a different take. First of all, the press conference on the basis of vague allegations leads to such kind of institutional disruption or whatever it will be. But, on the other point, which is very important point, which the Congress spokesperson is forgetting, and he is talking about transparency and all. When there was a committee that held Justice Ramaswamy at that time, back in the day in 1993, guilty of the misconduct, what was their behavior? Kapil Sibal defending the judge in the parliament and Congress party voting against them. So much so for the transparency and the track record which we have seen in the past. Because that was the only serious instance when the motion for impeachment was put to the vote, and we have to see the conduct of these people. So, they cannot run away their whole attitude, conduct, and this whole 64 signature business is not sufficient. You should be able to categorize the behavior as a judicial misbehavior. So all this, there are a lot of issues to be answered.
Right.
They cannot the garb of the press conference of the 4 judges also.
No, I don't think that's justified. I'll tell you why that's not justified. When the testimony of 4 judges is held supreme in the Justice Loya case and there is no doubt being raised on that, you can't turn around and say that these 4 judges coming out in public should not be taken at face value. I completely disagree with that. You're a legal luminary yourself, Hitesh Jain, and so should you. But I will go across to Soli Sorabji, and Soli Sorabji, the whole issue also centers around the point that this entire controversy raises and reignites the debate on more accountability, more transparency within the judiciary, the self-correction that's required. Do you agree with me?
No, I don't think so. I think that's an exaggerated view. Maybe there are differences of opinion. After all, what was the grievance of the 4 judges? That important cases were not allocated to them. They are senior judges, but the case is not allocated, given to other judges. Maybe if that is so, but does that come up to judicial misbehaviour, warranting impeachment? And you see, I look at it this way. It's obvious the opposition has got the numbers. So the whole idea is to really embarrass the Chief Justice, to humiliate the Chief Justice, and the other judges to tell them that, look, you better look out, otherwise you'll be facing a similar situation. Well, if the judge is stout-hearted, he knows his oath of office, true to his oath of office, he won't bother about any threat of further impeachment proceedings. But this doesn't look good for the judicial family. I'm distressed as a lawyer, as a citizen, that this happens in our country. When I go abroad, I proudly talk of our judiciary as one of our great features. Then people say, Mr. Sorabji, impeachment motion is pending against the Chief Justice. I forget about your judiciary. I don't know what to say. So therefore, this should be resorted to really extreme cases and not to settle political scores. That's my point.
Okay, I have time for just 2 quick last questions, just 1.5 minutes on this show. And Aman Pawar, let me ask you this question. Does this entire issue further corrode the very fragile relationship that in any case exists between the judiciary on one hand and the political class on the other?
See, we at the beginning of the show, I had said that when we had moved this motion, we moved this motion with a very heavy heart. But there is another facet to it, which is that in terms of accountability and answerability within the judiciary, there is no other mechanism which is available. Now, if there is any suspicion of misconduct against any judge, what is the methodology that somebody will adopt? There is nothing. Nobody can do anything. So this is the only last resort that was available to us after there were established cases where the Chief Justice himself sat in cases where probably he could have been an accused in. There were grievances that were vented out by the 4 senior most judges of the Supreme Court. So therefore, this is a constitutional mechanism, and the constitutional mechanism is to be followed by an inquiry. I don't understand that why an inquiry report is being opposed so much by the ruling party. The inquiry report will actually completely classify whether what the allegations are that are being made, are they correct or not. So that inquiry report needs to be out in public domain.
Okay, on that note, I've completely run out of time here. There's a spirited defense that has come in from the Congress party on moving this impeachment motion. The BJP saying this is an exercise in futility given that they don't have the numbers. And Soli Sorabji essentially saying this is an unfortunate day in India as far as the judiciary and Indian polity is concerned. Things have come to such an extent that for the very first time, the principal opposition party along with 6 others has decided to move an impeachment motion. On that note, we'll call it a day right here on this show, but plenty of news, views and analysis continue right here on ET Now. Thanks very much for being with us. Thank you very much to this wonderful panel for joining us this evening.